Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is more Dark Souls PvP on the Prepare to Die edition using Rudy's Dragonblood mod and Quality of Lives. This video is going to be focused around dual wielding, and if you've watched my Lucerne video, you will recognise certain facets of this because it's from those sessions as well. I was half messing around with the Lucerne, half messing around with dual wielding, and half messing around with changing weapons while I was fighting. And I had some good results, some bad results. That was a bad one, wasn't it? Guy just runs up and lock-on backstabs my ass. What was I doing? Although it didn't look like he was at my back, but there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Dark Souls is a cruel mistress. That time it looked like he was going for my back. Then he goes for the jump attack, overextends, and I stab him up the cunt, which is just the classic hello in this game. And then the punish on the reverse roll on Wake Up. So an interesting thing, ladies and gentlemen. Reverse rolls are really good, but if you space them wrong, you give your opponent your back. Be very careful. But dual wielding is something that people think Elden Ring invented, which is fascinating, considering it's been in every single game. And then, of course, Dark Souls 2 invented the power stance feature, and it's been of varying degrees of quality ever since. But you can do it in Dark Souls. It's just, it doesn't necessarily feel as good as it does in some of the later games, and it's not necessarily as viable, but it is definitely an interesting thing to play with. And right now I have no stamina because my management's kind of trash. And I go for the big read there, catch the flinch, and then poke him with the S-Stock. And then right here is me messing around with the skid and getting punished for it, so GG on that one, Chief. The skids are funny, but I'm not very good with them yet. The flamberge, though, try and catch him on the backstab running away. I almost got backstabbed then. I timed the parry. We finish him off almost. He's got one hit. What will he do on Wake Up? Watch him. We go for nothing there. He just rolls away. Interesting. And then it's scythe time. Fun time. Scythes are so cool. There's going to be a lot of weapons in this sequence. But as I was saying, dual wielding is something that I never really did in Dark Souls back in the day. It wasn't... I don't know, I just didn't see the efficacy of it. And I was too busy having fun with what I was doing, which was everything else, I guess, that it just didn't occur. Very obvious parry again. Whenever this player swaps to his shield, he's going to come and parry me usually, and I just let it happen because I'm shit. But it does get exciting. And, ooh, that was unfortunate. That's another reason why forward rolling is really dangerous. And a lot of the things with forward rolls is, because of the desync and the lag, on your screen he might have recovered and rolled again, but I didn't see that, and because my game thinks he's there, it tells his game he is there, and just pulls him back. So here we go again. I try and bait an attack, I turn around on the other attack, and I manage to clean him up. There's the opening running attack. We're using the Gargoyle Halberd, a weapon that I've really come to enjoy. It's a weapon I would have never used either in the old days, but now for some reason it just speaks to me. I'm definitely having a bit of a halberd resurgence. Because I always mess with the halberds, but I never found them to be too fun. But this one... Oh, again, that was another forward roll that I could have backstabbed if I was sprinting then. But another thing here, guys, is there's lots of backstab opportunities I could be punishing, which I'm not going to take. And it's not because I'm above it or like I don't respect my opponent or anything, it's just... I will R2 you in the back instead of backstabbing because it's more interesting to me. You know, I'm a weird player. I like the dance, I like the fight. I don't necessarily want to kill you in 2 backstabs and be done with it, even though I will do that if I need to at times. Because it's all about being dynamic, you know, it's all about being interesting, and keeping it interesting is paramount for my playstyle. But this is a quality build as well. It is a 40-40 quality build. I'm coming up against a bleed build using the Life Hunt Scythe and the Chaos Blade with the Blood Shield. And we're fighting, of course, on this bridge in Anor Londo, which... I've had a lot of good memories on this bridge. Fighting against people using Divine Blessings, fighting against hackers, fighting against gankers, fighting against just people co-oping, against new players, against experienced players. Anor Londo was always good to me, invasion-wise, until it died. As we get the counter backstab there, pulling out the Partisan, trying to hit some R2s. And then we've got the... If you ever see me go into the menu like that, guys, it means that the game dropped my input to go right. I will almost never go into my items, ever, because I only do it to Divine when we reset after someone wins. And again, guys, which I try to explain this on all videos, the gameplay that I'm showing you here are the times where I thought the footage was the most interesting. It just so happens that a lot of that is me winning. That does not mean that these sessions were just me slaughtering this player. That is not what happened. It was a good back and forth, it was very competitive, it was a lot of fun. And this bloody scythe, dude, if you stand in front of it, you're in for a bad day. And in some of the footage you'll see me toggling, in some of the footage you won't see me toggling, in some of the footage you'll see me parrying, in other footage you won't. One thing I noticed quite quickly with it is that because the scythe is quite slow and because the parry window on this version on PC is quite honest to what the game actually looks like, as opposed to 360 and PlayStation, it's a lot easier to parry some of the big weapons on sight. And I didn't want it to just turn into Chris parries repeatedly, because it, outside of like the clutch moments, I think it can get a bit fucking annoying for everyone involved. But I poise backstab there with the S-stock. I go for the kick to finish him off, it doesn't quite work. I try and do some counter movement there on like a half pivot just in case he goes for the back, but he doesn't quite rotate. And then I finish him with the broadsword. And then we pop on the scythe here. Again, he goes for the parry, but I don't swing. Rolls away, catches me with the Chaos Blade. Comes in and punishes the R2. That could have been a backstab then. I got really lucky. These rolls are super dangerous. You don't want to forward roll like that, guys, ever. There's the R2. I get the kick. He rolls back. I go for the reverse roll. I go for the offhand slash. I get parried because I'm doing too many. I catch the defense on the riposte, popping the helmet on. And then on wake up, he walks behind me, goes for the two-hand. I go to run around and do a cheeky backstab, and he puts me down. And then here is a piece of Lucerne footage, which has got, I think, some weapon swapping going on, which is why it didn't end up in the Lucerne video. And just then, he thought I was going to run behind him. He angled his attack to try and catch me, but I didn't. And that's one of the cool things about longer sessions. It turns more into guessing what people are going to do next and subverting what you thought they'd do in the beginning. Here's the shield. There's the R1. I get the kick. Nothing on the attack. Only certain weapons have true combos when you kick, guys. All the other ones, you're kind of hoping that somebody misplays or gets a bit too greedy. This is me trying to unlock and hit with a few different moves. I have two weapons. I don't have too much damage, though, so I have to stack up a lot of poise damage and a lot of normal damage. So you'll notice that I will definitely alternate between the hits. It's not quite push locking from Demon Souls, but it is fun. There he goes for the parry, he gets the partial, he rolls away, I chase him down, and that's the end of the engagement. Back into the fray, the running attack, the Lucerne hit catches him for the threes. We trade with some rolls, he backs away. Every so often I try and throw attacks out in mid-range to try and bait someone to try and punish them, and then I'll follow up with another one. But thankfully I'm up against someone who's thinking about what they're doing, so they're not always landing for the bait, they're not always falling for it, and we have this really athletic fight. My favourite fights back in the day were Katana Darkwood Grain Ring, two people just flipping everywhere like maniacs and just really making the game as fast as it can be played. And it's funny too because that playstyle got stigmatised a ton, and it actually, coming back to it now after the meta's been pushed to players of levels that you just can't even imagine, Flip CB now is probably the best build in the game if a player is willing to play lame enough and is skillful enough. And isn't it crazy to think, all those years ago, we were using the theoretical, like, most supreme build, but we didn't know it, because we were just flipping around, pretending we were weebs, and having a good time. And of course, there's plenty of other good builds, like stacking an insane amount of poise with a gold tracer, twapping into Darkbead. You know, of course, Mid-Kumo is so unbelievably good in the right hands of a patient and defensive player. Like, there's so many things, but it's just interesting that, like, that's another one, Murakumo. You didn't see that weapon that much back when this game was alive. It just didn't happen for some reason, and I remember using it and thinking it was cool, but I just didn't really notice how strong it was because I was too busy doing R2s and shit. I wasn't stun locking with R1s because back in those days, if you stun locked, you were a bad player. How crazy is that? I avoided stun locking opponents because I didn't see the merit in it, and I still can't get rid of that brain. It's fascinating, like, it doesn't help me, and yet I still have that conditioning because in those days, if you backstabbed, you sucked. If you stun locked, you sucked. If you used Mask of the Mother or the Family Mask, you were a bad player. And that's how I learned the game. And it's so strange now, looking back all these years later, it's all fucking nonsense. Do what you want, have a good time. But it meant so much to me because for some reason I wanted it to be this thing it was never meant to be. And now, when I come back and I'm trying to do all the things I never did, like, you will never see me in those old videos wearing the Hollow Soldier waistcloth, because I despised it. Yet you've probably seen it on nearly every video, because I'm wearing it for fashion, even though it's min-maxed to fuck. For its weight and its poise. Like, it's fascinating, isn't it? Like, a lot of the things that were demonized, I've come back and played with, because it's almost romanticized now in my memory. And that's what makes it so interesting. And yet I do think that that kind of thinking and that kind of, I suppose you could call it a form of elitism or like a gatekeeping. I just don't think it's healthy. If you want to run around with a fucking hornet on and backstab everybody and chain the shit out of people, that is what you should do, you know? That's what the game was meant to be. It is these fleeting souls meeting on a battlefield that was never intended. And the only thing that you can guarantee is death. The fact that people tried to make it like a fighting game, I think is really... It's kind of enviable, the innocence of it being that, because nothing's balanced in this game. It's a fucking mess. But it is a fun mess, you know? And it's a very technical mess as well. But the problem is, so few people understand it to the level to fully appreciate what it did and what it did so well. And I think that that ignorance is what hurts it. Because you'll notice that the remastered version of the game is not doing so well now. It's the same guys gravelording, hosting in the township, and they're all fighting each other, and they're all great, you know, they're great players with a lot of time on the game, but you can tell that they, I mean, not all of them, of course, some of them seem to want to watch the world burn, but you can tell they want the game to be bigger than it is. They want new blood, they want it to be alive again, like we did when we stood in Anor Londo and the fog gate never went up, the orb never worked, it kept failing, and you stood there as the fire literally faded from the game. And all you wanted was it to be as popular as it was when the DLC dropped, or when the forest was rich and full of people doing whatever they could to be the biggest cunt in the universe. And it's funny because I lived through that, you know, many of us did. We lived through that transition to Dark Souls 2 where the game faded kind of into obscurity. And now it's happening again to a new generation, and they're going through what we went through, and it's kind of, it's this ephemeral beauty, but it's also really sad. Because you love something so much, but other people don't. And they don't respect it. And they don't respect it because they don't understand it. And it doesn't help that there are so many other Souls games now to compare to, that this one gets compared really unfairly. Because the people who do so don't like the central kind of pillars of its gameplay. And then they say that all you do is backstab. You know, all you do is backstab. And don't get me wrong, if you want to be really effective and if you want to be really competitive, swinging your weapon is a risk sometimes you can't afford. And if you really want to compete against the best, you're going to have to acknowledge the fact that if you do a bad swing, you're going to lose a lot. You know, you're going to lose 90% of that HP to a hornet stab. That's where the game has gone. But there's people that love that. That's what they come back for. That's what they're good at, and that's what they want to do. And I know that there's more people like that. You know, much like when I've come back to do what you're watching here. Which to some people, they'll watch this video and they'll be like, what are these scrubs doing? What are these bums doing? Why are they playing like this? But you see, this is how we played back in the day. It was just a different breed then. And there's room for all types, you know? You don't have to fit into one box or into one facet of the game. You can make what you want, and I'm quite privileged in my position that I have a community and I can say to people, oh guys, do you want to go to the forest and fuck around and everybody uses whips or this or that? I can make that happen because I have the connections for it to manifest, but not everybody does. And I remember very vividly, almost tragically, standing in the Berg, a place I'd stood in many evenings, fighting many great players, fighting all kinds of players, all manner of players from all over the world. And I was standing there, and I'll never forget because I was using a flamberge on a low poise build, and I never did low poise because back in those days we could flip with 50% weight. So we had 80 fucking poise and we were still flipping, you know, unbelievable times. You can't even fathom it. And I was there with like 20 poise. And I was using the I think it was the Caduceus shield. And I think I was wearing like the hollow torso, and I was wearing a dress. And I was kind of... I'd never really worn dresses because I didn't think they looked good on any of the builds, but on this one I'd managed to set it up where it looked kind of sick, and I really liked the build. So I'm standing in the Berg with that shield and that sword on that low poise build, really excited to see how the dynamic will change when I can't just eat everything. And no one invaded. So I tried to invade other people and no one was hosting. And that's just the inevitability of all of these things, isn't it? Things are fleeting, they're transient. You've got to enjoy them while you're in them. You've got to enjoy the time right now, not necessarily the time you think that is coming. And I just hope that something can happen with that community, because Dark Souls 1 is a really special place, but it's a place that has such a stigma attached to it that I think a lot of people are scared to even try or even care. And you watch these videos and you might not understand what's happening because it doesn't make sense to the most obvious of players, especially if you come from PvE. PvE is not like PvP. They have so much shared DNA, common DNA, but they're not the same. And then it leads to people just misunderstanding how you play them and misunderstanding what's viable and what's not, and what you should be thinking about and what you shouldn't be thinking about, and the whole thing just gets complex. And who wants to get a master's degree in every facet of a game that they're going to play for a couple of weeks and then stop? Probably not many people. It seems like a waste of time. There's that R2, by the way. Have you ever seen that before? Bait him in with the R2, do the second R2, the follow-up. What a wonderful animation that is. But breaking poise with a broadsword feels baller as hell. Pulling out the giant blacksmith hammer. Shout out to the people who watched that series back in the day when I went in the Berg with that weapon. My god, was I bad at that weapon. It was hard. I still am, actually. I think that weapon is fantastic, but I can't use it. PvE I can, PvP I can't. But I pop on the broadsword. The cool thing about axes is they've got insane poise crush. Ooh, nice parry. Oh, I swapped my offhand weapon then. That's bad. Trying to figure out what I've done. There we go. Ooh. The poised R2 on wake up. What's he gonna do? Does the reverse roll? Uh-oh. And that's where a toggle would have saved him, but... This player knows to toggle, but seems to forget to. And here we go again with axes. Look at that, dude. Two-handed axe going straight through his poise break. And then I trap him with the flinch, catch him rolling away. And then right there, he does the reverse roll on wake up and we bait it and we parry it. Beautiful round. Not so much for my opponent, sadly, but... Doesn't it look elegant when it's that clean? It's hard to be mad on those losses because they just look so fucking good. Damn, here we go again with more halberds. He had the right read on the parry, but sadly the wrong timing. I go for the jumping attack, I can't quite turn around, I get caught. What can we do? R1? Oh, set up parry again. That's the problem if you mistime the first hit, guys. There is an advantage, though, to attacking someone on the ground with that kind of timing, because you can activate their backstab hitbox if you attack them early, but I think the timing is a bit later than that. There's the Chaos Blade, punish with the jumping R2, I bait the roll, I go for another jumping R2, but I can't quite get it. Run around the side, go for the double hit, try and catch on the roll catch, don't get it. Here we go, two-handed Chaos Blade. Can we fight it? There's the reverse roll attempt. There's the running attack. Oh my god, running attack on a washing pole. Trying to swap weapons, but not doing a good job of it. Here we go, put the Quillag on, but he beats me with the trade war. Back into the fray, the double running attack. There's the R1, there's the flinch. He iframes the next hit, there's the roll. That could have been a parry, that on the roll attack, but I was too busy trying to do the combos. Bloody hell, that was a slugfest. That was like a Don Fry fight. Bring out the reinforced club, catch me with the running attack. Here we go, obvious parry. I don't know what the fuck I was doing there. And right there, he goes for the trap, but I react to it, which is nice. So I can actually come in and start putting some damage on. Right here, it's a poise war. I'm quite confident that the club can go through his poise if the axe can. I'll have to double check some of those breakpoints. I think it's like 30 something, isn't it? Is it 30 on the clubs? 35? I forget. Ooh, and then I get a nice read on the roll away and catch him. I love those, you know, when people roll away and you guess correctly where they're going to roll to. Here we go, hitting him with all the moves. Piecing him up, go for the jump attack, go for the parry, don't get it. A couple of quick slashes. That's a parry. See? That's a big problem with this kind of playstyle. If you always put your shield on, run up and parry, you will get backstabbed. Against me, you'll get a million parries because I don't really want to run up and backstab you all the time. And if I do that, it either means I had the read before you did it, or I'm getting frustrated. And in this session, I didn't get frustrated at all, which was nice. Here's the scimitar. The curved swords are really, really strong. But I must admit, I don't feel very confident when I'm using them in dual wielding. I feel really confident when I'm two-handing because they're bullshit. Right, just then, that was a hard read. I had an impression because I did so many attacks he was going to go for a parry, so I ran around and scooped him, and it worked in my favour. And then we come back now to the gargoyle halberd. Look at that trade, dude. Oh my god, he lost 1,000 on that trade. Then we get the cancelled backstab. Right there, when I went into the menu, if you ever get a cancelled backstab, guys, but you don't have any specific setups, buff your weapon. Go in there, drop a pine resin on it. You've got enough time, it'll give you an extra 100 damage. It's something to think about, you know? Like, if you've got any fire tempest or shit like that, you can do all kinds of weird oaky situations, but I don't have that, so instead, I was just thinking about what can I do. And there we go, we get the flamberge, I go for the backstab. This time he doesn't defend it as correctly as he can, so it manages to work in my favour. I go for the weapon swap, but I don't get it. Right now I'm getting stuck in my menu, there we go. Ooh, goes for the bait with the R2. Here comes the axe, I do the whiff, I do the second hit. You'll notice I do that a lot with axes. Whiff the first hit, they think they can come in, hit them with the second hit, and if you can stun them like I can, it's super empowering, and then I manage to clean him up. And then we start here with the partisan. A bit of a poke war. He'll swap to the Chaos Blade though, because he doesn't like spears. As soon as the spears come out, I think he fought against Khan, and Khan fucked him up with a silver spear, so it gave him a bit of trauma. But as soon as the spear came out, the Chaos Blade came out, and you've got to be very careful fighting that kind of weapon. That weapon is so fucking good. And here we go, I'm just going absolutely slap happy. Oh, nice parry. That was good. And here we go, back into it. Claymore's on. What a weapon. Oh, that roll was so unfortunate. I wanted to do a running attack then, but I got a backstab. And there's the reverse roll. And I missed! Am I drunk? I'm fucking locked on from. How am I missing? Missing this man. Missing. God, I hate it when you miss, dude. It tilts me somewhat fierce. Go for the R1s. Look at that bleed bar. I need to roll this next hit. See if I can get it. Ooh, the parry. Yeah, saw that coming. Bushka. Beautiful weapon. That was a cool fight. Here we go. Chaos Blade, rolling attacks. Going in with the broadsword. There's the scythe. Running attack. There's... Ooh, no backstab for him that time. I had the right read, but I had the wrong timing. And right there, I thought he'd parry, but he didn't. I'm surprised. Get the kick. Go for the R1. Go for a second R1. There's the roll attack again. Right read, bad timing. That's a parry all day. I remember this. I'm going to counter BS. Yeah. This was sick. That moment when you roll away from the riposte, God, it breaks your heart, doesn't it? It really does. Oh, 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 oh. Not quite. What we got? Oh, nice roll. Can't quite catch it. Here we go. Rolling attack. Didn't do it. Goes for the kick. Punish the kick. Second kick. Roll BS. Yeah, I saw that coming again. You got to be very careful with kicks, guys, when someone can roll BS like that. The fight is over. But what a fun session. GG to that man for putting up with me for so long. And GG to you guys for watching these and listening to these. Hopefully you got something from the discussion or you enjoyed the gameplay. I'll let you do you. Thank you for watching. You take care now.